Ag Tire Talks Driving Yield Through Tire Technology, sponsored by Michelin Agriculture.
James Tushner with Ag Tire Talk here. I'm with Blaine Cox, product manager for agricultural tires, lawn and garden for Yokohama Off-Highway Tires Americas. Thanks for being on the show, Blaine.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about what I think is one of your most unique product offerings, the AgriFlex 363 Plus. So let's just talk about just the line in general, just kind of a broad overview of really what you're trying to accomplish with this line and the segments that you're wanting to serve with it.
Right. With the 363, we're trying to basically serve the needs of the broad line sprayer market, both high clearance and smaller sprayers. And we're using that by using a kind of a hybrid type tread design. When if I could show you a picture of it.
Sure, please do.
It's this tire right here. If you look, it's totally different than an R1, even though it has still the same chevron shapes. You have a lot more lugs on each side of the center, and we put a center S-type rib there for increased directional stability. Because we know, and they're all rated at 40 miles an hour and above, a D-speed rating. And they also are all stubble guard, and we also have put a steel belt in all of our 363 products.
Awesome. So let's break that down a little bit. Let's just focus for the moment on the tread design, and just to give the verbal description for all of our listeners that are just listening to the podcast. It's unique from the standpoint it's got a very high void ratio on the edges, yet compared to a traditional R1, that void ratio or the tread blocks are much closer in the center, and certainly a hybrid, different than a traditional R1 by a long shot. But let's just talk about why you chose to put those tread blocks a little bit closer in the center, and really what that does in contrast to a traditional R1 or R1W, Blaine.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems that we were trying to solve by doing that is comfort. With sprayers, ride comfort is, a lot of the puzzle pieces. So by putting the lugs a little bit closer together, you end up with a much softer and smoother ride. And these guys run pretty fast between fields in order to, make up time, so to speak. So we know they're going to go fast. So we went ahead and put the S channel down the center, and we closed up the sides and got the lugs pretty close. You'll have a lot more lugs on each side of this than you would with an R1 or R1W.
And one of the things that a sprayer is self-propelled, right? So you're not going to need that drawbar bowl quite as much as a typical tractor application. Is that correct?
Right. You're not dragging anything. You're just rolling with heavy tanks. So it's a lot of downforce that helps you out with your traction.
Perfect. So really what's that really boiling down to is you really took it from a traditional R1 that you really didn't need all that traction, right? But you did need better roading because they're so fast, right? So really that's what you're achieving with those closer tread blocks in the center, but still giving good traction with that high void ratio on the edge. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, awesome. That's the whole concept behind the hybrid tread design. And you see this type of tread design really growing in the industry.
Well, very good. So we talked about this really being geared towards the sprayer marketplace, but let's just talk about, I think it has evolved onto some other fitments as well as it's been released. So why don't you touch upon, really what it was designed for and how some of it has evolved into some of the other applications that we're seeing out there?
Well, mostly we see this on sprayers, but on some of these smaller compact utility tractors, and some of the narrow row crops, we see the customers prefer this type of tread design. And really, I guess there's two reasons for that. One being the comfort because of the tread design itself, and also the narrow row crop to get in between the rows, because it seems like every year they narrow up the rows in order to put more crops in the fields.
So really what you're saying is that it was originally designed for sprayers, but you're seeing it evolve into some specialized tractor applications. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
And
Farmers, they're pretty, they're, that they're kind of, how should I put it?
innovative.
Very innovative. I mean, they will take a design and they will, use it, and they will also alter their tractors too. When that tractor rolls off, they may add tanks to it,
True. Yep.
and, it's different attachments in order to do what they need to do.
So
So,
let's
have to be flexible.
excellent, excellent. So let's just talk about the specific area and the drill down on where you're seeing this stuff take off on the tractor piece, really more so than other areas.
Tractors, mostly in the row crop. You really don't see it, in the large high horsepower tractors in the Midwest because, they're dragging. They're dragging, chisel plows and, discs and all that. But in the row crop applications, that is where people are really starting to actually ask for this tread design.
So correct me if I'm wrong, really what we're talking about is on the more specialized West Coast crops, say, not the traditional corn and soybeans where they got to be really narrow, right? This seems
Right.
to be working really good for them. Is that right?
Right. We make sizes from 230 all the way up to 480 cross section. But
Oh,
you're
narrow.
seeing,
Wow. Okay.
these really start to sell out.
Excellent, excellent. I'll tell you what, Blaine, and I love the sprayer marketplace as we've known each other a long time. Certainly a unique offering. So let's just start with the most fundamental piece, which is, okay, it's a D speed rating. Why'd you choose D?
The speed rating gives the customers a lot more flexibility because obviously as you go faster, you can get more work done. But we also have to be able to lower those speeds, when they're planting, when they're harvesting, if they're disking, if they're spraying. So you have to, run the entire gamut of speeds. There's really nothing more that they'll do, anything higher than 40 miles an hour. But we made sure that all of our 363s will go at least 40 miles an hour.
Well, good, good. Now, before we get to the couple of new release sizes, let's just touch upon a couple of other pieces, parts. You chose an R1 versus an R1W. Why don't you touch on that?
The R1 is really all you need because traditionally with the sprayers, way back in the dark ages when they first started bringing out powered sprayers, the traditional I thought was we go ahead and leave it at an R1 tread depth. And we also, make it as fast as we can, but we're also able to narrow the width between the lugs on the shoulders.
Yep, yep, yep.
Reason for that, with a sprayer, comfort is more, or at least as important as traction.
Amen, amen. And I say that R1 tongue in cheek because it certainly doesn't look like it's certainly a new age tread design hybrid, innovative look to it. So all good. All right. So we touched upon this sometime that with your VF just blanket offerings. This is steel belt as well. Why don't you just hit upon that one last broad overview piece part as to why you chose steel belt? Certainly not everyone's steel belt on the sprayer applications, and just give us a dissertation as to why you chose that.
Yeah, there's two main I guess you would call qualities about a steel belt that makes it really stand out in a farm tire. One, it keeps the tread flat on the road to give you that long footprint. That gives you your best traction for your type of dirt and also elongates the footprint. And the second part of that part is going to be a puncture resistance.
Oh yeah, puncture resistance.
You have a very tough, steel belts underneath the tread design, which will kind of help you out against field hazard and stubble damage. Even though we offer a 3-year field hazard and stubble damage warranty on our 363 products and a 10-year workmanship and materials warranty, that steel belt gives you a little bit more peace of mind.
And I'm looking at the data book page, calling up your data book, And I'm noticing that, correct me if I'm wrong, every VF you build, Blaine, is is a steel belt or an all steel carcass. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
that is correct. That's our biology.
Okay. Okay. So before we get into the new products, just a couple of notes as far as the product lines. What would you say are your most popular sizes in the AgriFlex Plus 363?
363 right now is still the 380 9046.
Okay.
You know, your standard sprayer size. You also have, and I believe it's the 320 90 46 and the 320 90 50.
Okay.
Those three take up most of our, sales, but really the 380 90 46 is by far and above the big one.
Yeah, that's been out
Just a
now
standard.
I mean, how long has that thing been out? Maybe 15 years, kind of
A
something
long time.
A long
The
time.
first
We're
one,
showing our
I think.
age. All right. Multi-decade veterans talking it out. All right. So let's get on to the new products. You have got a 420 95 50. You know, used to seeing 480 80 50s out there. I'd say an R40 45 or whatever. But let's talk through why you chose that 420 95 50, very high aspect ratio offering.
Correct. The main reason for that is that the customers want to go taller and taller with their sprayers, and this gives them a little bit more clearance, so they can spray a little bit longer.
So post emerge just allows them to spray when it just the crop's a little taller.
Correct.
Okay.
It's what they're demanding, and the taller the tire, the longer the footprint, so that gives you a little bit more ability to reduce your compression, your ground compaction on your crops. So anytime you can reduce compression or compaction, you really have a better yield at the end of the growing season.
Well, in a heavy load index 179D, so that also plays into it. Okay, so let's talk about the other size. It's a VF 320 105 R46. Why you chose that, and really the reason for this specific release?
Well, you can see it's a 320, which is narrow for the really narrow rows that you see in row crop farming, and the 105 just gives you that taller and taller tire to give you that longer and longer footprint.
Awesome.
That's
That larger
basically
air
it.
chamber.
Yep.
Well, good. So with those particular two offerings, really what it looks like is just the flexibility piece continues to grow. One of the things I noticed on your load tables, it's not the old style load tables of just a VF being one speed. It has more flexibility than that, and you have some slower speeds as well. Why don't you talk through the load table piece on these new offerings?
Yeah, on every tire we have a load table that'll run you from about 12 psi and 6 miles per hour all the way up to the max air pressure, which it varies, on these products. I think you'll probably see it go up to 44, maybe 63 psi on some of these sprayer tires. And by doing that, we allow the farmer to be more flexible in, what he does. I mean, he can go fast, he can go slow. It'll show him exactly how much weight he can carry at a different air pressure if he wants to reduce. And if he knows how heavy he is, which a lot of these sprayers are really, really heavy when you got that 1,200 gallon tank on them, that it'll allow him to know how fast he can go based on the air pressure he wants to run. So
very good. So all your
VF
tables
flexibility.
Excellent. And all your VF tables enable that flexibility piece. Is that correct?
Actually, all of our tables do.
Awesome.
Standard tire and the VFs.
Well, and
I
I bring
see
it
the
up.
most advantage with the VF, though.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's a real good dissertation on that AgriFlex. I'm going to recap a couple of bullet points that are just notable to me. Number one is an innovative new design, right? That's super atypical. Hybrid, one of the biggest pieces. We have steel belt. We have the flexible load tables as well. Any other closing thoughts, Blaine, on the AgriFlex 363?
Well, we're also coming out with newer and newer sizes as the needs arise. We have two more sizes that we're coming out later on this year. One is a 290, 230, 95, 32, which is a 95, 32,
Nice.
and a 320, 85, 34. All of these sizes together, they give the farmer a lot of flexibility for a lot of different types of machinery. And as you said, they're all steel belted, they're all VF, they're all 40-mile-an-hour tires, and they all have stubble guard rubber, which is
the stubble guard thing.
something that gives you a lot of peace of mind, when you're out there farming.
Well, good. Okay, so one last point I just noticed. So correct me if I'm wrong, that plus designation in your lineup, that's really an indicator of a VF tire. Is that correct?
Correct. You have the AgriFlex and you have the AgriFlex Plus. We're using Plus to denote the VFs. We're actually changing the entire lineup to all VFs, and we're taking the IFs out of the equation, so to speak.
So Blaine, let's talk about a crystal ball. When's everything just going to be VF and call it a day?
Soon.
That's way too vague. You need to be a little bit more specific.
I won't tell you, in 5 years, you'll see nothing but VFs.
All right. That's a good
sprayers
data
and,
point.
Medium to high horsepower tractors. It's all going in that direction.
All right. Well, very good. Well, Blaine, that's all I have got today. Thanks again for sharing all of the idiosyncrasies of the AgriFlex Plus 363. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us.